Hello, and welcome to another episode of Real Talk for Coaches. I am your host, Coach Dawn, and as always, I'm always excited to have Coach Will with us. How you doing, Coach Will?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And so I'm excited about this particular topic. We're going to talk about how to navigate life changes. I think this is going to be good for coaches as well as coachees. And, we're going to talk about strategies for adapting to major life transitions and their effect in the coaching session, right? So why don't you share with our wonderful listeners what are some of our key subtopics we're going to talk about?
Well, we're going to talk about life-changing events such as like marriage, divorce, parenting, aging, which I am doing gracefully, by the way. I should throw that out there. Emotional resilience and, coping techniques. Oh, whoa, I see that laughter on your face.
But
We'll address that later. We'll address that later. Communication, and
wait, I
relationships,
feel like I'm in trouble. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, not at all. Not at all. How to set realistic goals,
Yes.
and expectations. And that's a big one right there because I
Yeah.
think
It is.
people yeah, we'll talk about it later. And how to get, resources for support, and growth in general.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is a lot, and we may have to revisit this and talk about other life changes because life changes like it's throughout our lives from birth to the grave, right? From cradle to the grave.
Right.
And there's always some kind of change. And again, and I feel like I need to say this. A lot of coaches go into like leadership coaching, business coaching, executive coaching, that kind of thing. And of course, I do some of that myself. It- the thing that I'm noticing is that people don't really understand that life events, life changes impact the trajectory of your career, impact how you navigate life in general, but also in the workplace, your career. Like, for instance, maternity leave, right? You
Hmm.
will be surprised how many women come to me. They're like 6 weeks, 8 weeks. How do I talk to my manager about maternity leave? I'm like, we got so many weeks ahead. Or they're in their 20th week and they're like, I don't know where my career is going to go. I'm going to have a baby. This is my first time baby. I was gung ho. I was on this career track. And now all of a sudden I got a baby and life is changing. I don't know if I feel the
Hmm.
same way, right? So that's just one
Hmm.
example. Or, men, the same thing. You've been doing so many things, but then you get married, or then you have children. Then your mindset and, okay, what do I need to do to be a good father, a good husband, a good, provider? So life events change. And then when you get older, we all get older, and
Right.
you get to this point, it's like, I don't have no motivation to do nothing. I got 10 more years
Hmm.
before I can retire. What do I do with
Yeah.
this? Right? So there's a lot. So I don't know how much we're going to cover, but we're going to try our best to cover as much as we can. So, what questions do you got for me, good sir?
Well, I just want to make one real slight comment before we get to like, I, and just listening to what you were just saying, I probably believe that a lot of it is coaching on work-life balance.
Very true.
Or it could be
Very true.
because when you if you're a person like you said earlier, people they're getting into it. I was on this track and I'm going to do this, or now I got married, and so then it becomes a thing of how do I balance work and marriage, or how do I balance parenting and marriage and
Yep.
things of that nature.
Yep.
Um, but as far as questions, let me see. So, what are the biggest obstacles that you find that clients face during major life changes?
Oh, you just hit the nail on the head. It really
Mhm.
is. It's two things that I see as a coach. I observe the how do I create work life harmony because I feel everything is important. And this is why you always hear me say harmony, not balance. And one of the things I always, because people go, I want
Mm,
work-life balance. I don't know how to balance it. I'm like, because it's not meant to be balanced. They're not equal. When you think of balance, I always use this analogy. Think of a scale. Typically, if something is balanced, that means they both have the same weight. I'm sorry. Feeding my baby at 3 o'clock in the morning does not have the same weight as meeting with our international client at 3:30 in the morning because I need to be on the meeting because we got a time zone difference.
mhm.
That's not to say they're both not equally important because they are, but they don't have the same weight, so we can't balance them.
Right.
So you have to find harmony. What would give you harmony? For example, maybe your spouse should feed the baby while you do the meeting. Maybe a colleague can swap with you and say, "Hey, I'll do your 7 o'clock meeting because I know the baby gonna be asleep at that time. If you could do my 3 o'clock meeting, this go." That's harmony,
Okay. That makes sense.
right? And so that's one of the things that I work with my clients on is how do you find harmony, not balance, because they're not equal weight. The second thing is mindset. I noticed that people don't realize that they have more power than they believe. I think that people sometimes feel confused because they feel like if I give up on my career, then I'm a bad employee or I'm failing because what are we taught? You keep progressing, you get those promotions, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
So now, and unfortunately, and look, let's be honest, and I'm gonna be honest, women who go on maternity leave, and while I understand legally it's not supposed to be this way, we cannot control what other people think or how they spin it, where it's not because you're pregnant or had a baby, but because of productivity. I've seen a lot of women get bandaged out because they had a baby and
Yeah.
they could no longer do the same things. So I want to be clear that women really do struggle with this because they want to work, they want to have a career, and they want to be moms, but they struggle because it's like, how do I do both? And so a lot of them is around mindset. What do they have the power to do? But also making a choice. And like I tell a lot of women, okay, let's just be prepared. I'm not saying this is going to happen. It may not happen. But some women face when you come back to work from maternity leave, you do not get a promotion for at least 12 to 18 months. You don't because you've been out of on maternity leave. So even though they
Oh,
can
wow.
technically judge you beforehand, a lot of women don't get that promotion. They don't.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, I've seen it time and time again. They just don't. But after 18 months, they then they're all of a sudden now they're eligible, or there's almost like this assessment. Did your productivity change after you had the baby and you come back to work? Da da da. So
Right.
with
Right.
that type of life event or change, sometimes women in particular got to make hard, fast decisions. They got to decide, are they going to be okay with not getting that promotion? Are they go I'm not saying they won't, but I'm just saying what I've seen happen and what other women have shared with me and what they've experienced. And my whole thing is sometimes we got to make the decision. And I always tell women, look, in 18 months to 5 years, it's not going to make a difference. It's not. You're going to just have to pivot. You're going to have to learn and you're going to have to just keep reinventing yourself. And we can structure what this will look like so that you can show that you're an asset and that you are a dedicated employee. And we work on it. And again, working with the women I work with, they wind up getting their promotion. Don't get me wrong, they will get it. But sometimes they have to accept the fact that it might be slightly delayed. So again, it goes back to what you said. It's about finding harmony. I hope I answered the question.
Okay. Yeah, you did. You did. And when as you were talking, I was thinking about an experience, what I saw, but it was on the other end. And I feel like sometimes when women may go out for maternity leave, they may fear the fear of losing their job
Hmm.
is a big is a big thing.
Hmm.
And I'm sure you have to coach people through that as well because it's like, oh, be out for that this many months. Somebody else is going to have to do this.
Hmm.
So how am I going to manage this? Like what's going to happen? It's the fear of the unknown type of thing.
It is.
Um, yeah, yeah, and that's a big one. What are some of the other like I mean, we touched on, maternity leave, but like what are some of the other I know we said divorce
Oh gosh, yeah,
is a big
divorce, divorce.
one.
Hmm.
Aging,
That's
which
a big one.
again I'm doing great. Again, I'm doing gracefully, by the way. Um, yeah. And getting on the age on aging, I can touch on that from a personal point of view because I'm a person of a certain age.
Hmm.
And sometimes when I look at some of these younger people coming in, the Gen X, the Gen Zer, the millennials, and I don't even whatever they're up to now. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at them and I'm like, I sometimes I may feel out of touch. And sometimes I feel like, okay, like I think I may go through a thing. Am I really good enough for this? Because I see
Yep.
where they're going. It could be like a touch of imposter syndrome or something like that. But it's, aging at age, I'm like, okay, this is interesting because I don't have the same outlook as they do,
Mm-mm.
and they don't have the same outlook as I do.
Hmm.
So it's a learning experience. Um, and I'm sure you coach people around
That's why I'm
that
laughing. That's
all
why I'm
all the
laughing.
time.
That's why I'm laughing.
Um,
Yes, yes. So yes, and it's funny when I get, I'm gonna say clients around, I'm gonna say 50 to 58, 59, right? It's always hilarious to me because, again, Gen Xers, right? Gen Xers, it, what you just stated is very common with how people feel, right? And I find with men, my male clients who deal with this, it's always this mindset of like they don't feel the younger generation think critically. That's A. B, they do
mhm,
feel a little bit like dinosaurs because if you became niched in your area and you're doing what you're doing and then this new stuff come in like AI is kind of mind-boggling a lot of Gen Xers for some strange reason. Or maybe it's just as strange to me because I use AI, I love AI. Um, but at the end of the day, I think that people who may not be as technologically advanced or technology keeps changing and changing and maybe their role did not incorporate that, they do feel imposter syndrome because you got these young people coming in here and they're like, oh well, let's use AI, oh well, let's do this, oh let's do it this new way, and oh let's use social media. And our generation is like, what? Why are we using social media? No, that's just stupid. I'm not gonna be
mhm,
on social media. Why are we doing that? Or like there's idea clashes. So to your point, a lot of people in our age range kind of feel a little bit outdated, but this goes into how can you upskill, right? So when I'm coaching a client who's feeling imposter syndrome, who especially more, I get that not so much with somebody in their current role, but more somebody they got laid off or they're looking for another role. I get that more then where they're like, I never had to use this type of skill. Like for instance, I had a client, she was with her company like 20 years and she got laid off, and she's around our age. She's in our age group. And she was like, I have no clue. Like I don't even know where to begin. I feel outdated. What training should I get? You know, and so we explored that and she found some things that she want to do and it aligns with the type of roles that she want to go for. Beautiful. But I say all that to say to your point, there is this feeling of being a dinosaur. And this is where it's important for people to and coaches to remind people that you have the power to upskill. And while you're in your position, and even if your position may not require that technique or skill, find opportunities to introduce it, to use it, to learn it, do stretch projects. Like I talk with so many people, it's like you have to keep your skills updated because technology change, trends change, approaches change, frameworks change, businesses change, models change. You have to keep up with that, even if your role in the current moment doesn't require it. You have to be responsible and accountable for your growth. So age is a big one, and I'm going to do a separate segment. And women who hit menopause, that's a huge one because half the women, we don't talk about menopause, and that's a no no and a shame for us as women. I'm trying to change that, by the way. But I say all that to say that's something else that we have to look into, and it's actually a public health initiative because by 2030, more than a quarter of the population, which just millions of people, will be in perimenopause or menopause. I'm sorry, menopause. So yes, and if business aren't handling this, it
Right.
could be a challenge for women in particular and for businesses as well. So something to talk about in another segment.
So and I was gonna say, how do you communicate that? Like, because when you're going through certain changes and things of that nature, like you have a relationship with your mate,
Mm-hmm.
you have a relationship with your job.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, you know, people don't realize that your job is you do have a certain relationship with your job. It's, you know,
And an obligation. And
so
an obligation.
yes, to both, to
Yep.
your mate and to your job. So how do you keep up communication during those different transitions? I
Love
mean,
this
I know
question.
you're going to talk
Love
about it
this
later.
question.
So you're going to talk about it later, like menopause, you're
Mhm.
aging, you're like, if you're going through, you're at work and you may have just went through a divorce,
Mhm.
like, you know, or so like I hear like I've spoke to people at my current job
Mhm.
to where it's um they'll put in, I need my name updated. Why do you need your name updated? Oh, because I need my name updated in the system because I just went through a divorce.
Mhm.
And you know, I'm going back, or even worse, you know, or you know that it's even harder transition, um, where I don't know if you did. Well, I've had calls where people have called up and they say, "Oh, I called up about X, Y, and Z, and my husband's name still comes up, but he's deceased."
Mhm.
And that made me feel some kind of way. Can we change that? How can we go about changing this? So that is, and that, I think that's something that we don't think about, the effects that it will have on somebody. Is there a way to communicate that? Like, you know, when you're going through that.
Absolutely, definitely. And there's a three prong to that. It's as the coach, how you're showing up for that conversation. As the coachee, what they're bringing and what they're feeling, and being vulnerable and honest to kind of explore it because it's important. And then how are employers in the workplace dealing with it, or how are other family members dealing with it? Because, like you said, and I think that's an
Mhm.
important thing, you have relationships and obligations to other areas of life, other life pillars, right? Whether you're in school, whether you are married and got kids, whether you're working, whether you go to your faith based organization, you have relationships. There's expectations and there's latitude, more or less, in each one of these pillars, right? And so
Mhm.
the first thing I usually do is explore with the client, which pillar is this most affecting? Which one are you struggling to have the communication with the most? And I think it's really important to understand, where are they struggling to have the conversation? Who are they struggling with? Because that's going to dictate the approach that they use. So, for example, if you're in, I'll use divorce since you brought that up. Well, obviously, if you're in a divorce, you have to have conversations with friends and family members, and it can make you feel raw because now you got to talk about it. You might feel like a failure, blase, blase, right? It's very personal. A lot of emotions is tied into it. That's going to be one type of conversation. Um, at work, do you really got to tell people? Depends on how you feel about it. Like, technically, if you're like, yes, I'm changing my last name, a lot of that goes through HR. You send them paperwork, they check the paperwork, they change you in the system. There's really no conversation. It's just, here's the paperwork. I'm changing my name,
Right.
right? The conversation comes around if you need people to call you by your new last name. But most of us call each other by our first name. Technically, you don't have to have that conversation. But here's where the conversation comes into play. If you are emotionally raw and you're still going to work, right? So if you had an
Hmm.
emotionally charged divorce, you might be in the middle of a meeting and start crying because you're feeling emotional. And so that's more, how do you manage and regulate your emotions when you go to work? What are your resources and options? Can you take FMLA? Can you take PTO? Can you ask for some adjustments in your workload? Can you work from home for a couple of days? It may require you to have a conversation with your manager, but if you don't feel comfortable having that kind of conversation, then we would work on language to help you at least say, I need some supports because I'm going through some life
Yeah.
changes, and in order for me to remain an asset and do my best work, I just need a little bit of adjustment for 2 weeks, for 1 week, for whatever it is that you can get. And then kind of regroup and figure out how you want to manage and heal so that you can be your best self when you are going back to work after some downtime, right? So we explore all of that, including language. And so to answer your question, a lot depends on who you're communicating with, what you're communicating about, and what resources you have available in order to support you through your life change.
So all of the ways like they can support themselves, like during certain transitions, which
Hmm.
are good. It's like almost like self-advocating.
Really, really, it
Yeah.
is. It really is. And the funny thing is, and it's really interesting. And I think this is what gives me a benefit of having a psychology background, is that
Mhm.
people don't feel empowered to have these conversations because, again, socially we're taught personal is personal. You don't bring the personal into work. And I have always struggled with that concept. Of course, I understand that you're not supposed to be woe is me at work and everything can't be personal. I totally get that. However, we have to be mindful that no matter how much we can mask and pretend for 8 hours, you're still a human being. You still feel some kind of
Right.
way. And whatever is going on outside of work comes into the job. Whatever is going on outside of school goes into school. It impacts your productivity. It impacts your thinking. You have cognitive overload. You have overwhelm. And you have to manage that. And I think leaders, coaches, companies, organizations, they have to be mindful that people are still people. And if you want your workers to do their very best and be productive, you got to make sure they have the supports and accommodations in place to help them transition in a life change. Even happy life changes like moving. A lot of people go, "Oh, I got a house, my first house, and we're all excited, everything is good." But it's still a life change. It still comes with stress. You got to unpack, you got to repack, you got to maybe fix a couple of things that you didn't think needed to be fixed around the house. Like, there's so much that you have to do and you still got to work. That's stress.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
cognitive overload, right? So I think it's important for companies to recognize that people still going people. People
Yeah.
still going people.
Yeah.
They gonna get sick. They gonna live. They gonna have babies. They gonna get married. People gonna pass away. They gonna get divorced. They gonna get older. they're gonna be too young when they enter. They're gonna be green when they come in and know nothing. Like this is the gamut of life. And regardless if you work in a knife, life is still going life. And I think it's important for managers and companies to understand that and make sure that there are resources in place like coaching
Yeah.
to
Coach
help
Dawn
their right, right, to help their
at
client
reready.com.
at reready or drdawnreed.com. Like, yes,
Exactly.
yes.
Exactly.
To help through this process.
Right. So like when you're going through different life changes, like you may not we talked about, having time to do certain things. And when you're, let's say at this particular time I was able to give 100% or 150%. Didn't realize that I was giving 150%, but now I have this change to where it's just for like I
Mhm.
became a new parent. And now it's, oh, I can't do this because of this. Like, so how do you change your goals? Like, because it's before your 150% may have actually been 100% to everyone else. But now, since you're not able to give what you did before, you may feel like, oh, I'm not able to do this. So, how do you set realistic goals and expectations for yourself?
I love this question. And that to me is the foundation for sessions where there's a life change involved. Oh my God, I love this question. The first thing I'm going to say is even if you were given 70%, and you went down to 60%, people going to notice that there's a change in your productivity or there's a change in your behavior or your attitude, right? So that's a given. Any difference in behavior, and it could be minute, behavior is so different than other aspects. Just a smidgen of a change can make a noticeable difference. So, this is where I kind of hold people's hands. Let me hold your hand while we
Hold your hand while I tell you this.
exactly, exactly. It's about being realistic. You have to accept that you may not be able to go as hard as you used to. That's A. And you have to change the mindset from perfection to function. Are
Mhm.
you still producing? Are you still functioning at a level where it's good enough? And you have to be
Okay.
okay that it's good enough. It's not perfect and it's
Mhm.
not what it used to be. And what I always tell people that this is temporary because it's a life change. Once you're through the adjustment period of the change, things will adjust with you, up or down, but there will be an
Okay.
adjustment,
Right.
right? Um, the second thing is what are your resources? Again, especially with more individualistic and hyper independent cultures, right? There is this belief that you're supposed to do everything by yourself. You don't need no help. You're weak if you get help. And we talked about this before. And that my whole research work is on help seeking behavior. That drives me crazy. It drives me crazy because, and that's personal. I'm gonna say it drives me crazy personal because I know that you need support and help. You are not an island by yourself, right? And when you
Mhm.
have a life change, you need other pillars and supports to help you make it through that change. And so I always explore what are your resources. This is another one that's very difficult for people because not only is it mindset, it's also I gotta ask somebody for help. And I'm like, well, if you got an option, you could pay for help. That is always an option, right? You can always get a babysitter, a house cleaner. You can always get somebody to do meal prep and cook for you. There's support. Or you can ask people, friends, relatives, in-laws, parents, church,
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
The thing is you need to get support. You also can tap into what does your work provide? Does your job provide an employee assistance program? Some type of other discount on services that can help you with as a resource. I'm also a big believer in AI. I'm like, get go find somebody's chat GPT, somebody open a somebody, go find them, go get Copilot, Gemini, pick your pick, right? And just how do I, how can I help me create a schedule? Help me figure out a meal prep plan. Like people try to think so much by themselves. And I'm like, dude, go ask questions. If you ain't sure, go ask. AI ain't gonna judge you. Go ask. Right? Um, and again, swallow your pride and go talk to people and go, look, I really need this support. How can you help me?
Exactly.
Right? So those are some of the things that we explore in the coaching session: resources, language for asking, mindset for pride and beliefs about asking for
Hmm.
help, resources that are available to you, where can you make adjustments? Yeah. And being realistic. You got to be realistic. Stop trying to shoot for perfection. And there's two analogies I usually give people. Well, three. There's three. So maybe this will help people. I love saying, how do you eat an elephant? So, Coach Will, how do you eat an elephant?
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, I guess.
Right? One bite at a time. So I always put that mindset in people's head. Another thing, I love the analogy of the car, right? A car situation. I always go, at 100%, that car can take you X amount of miles. I know at 100 filled on E, my car can go 380 miles. Easy peasy, right?
Okay.
Obviously, the less gas I have, the less mileage is going to go. If you on
Right.
E, you going to sit and park. And I
Hmm.
always say, you got to remember the life changes take your energy, it takes your gas, and you got to fill your tank,
Mm.
right? And I'm like, how do you want to fill your tank? And I'm like, look, even if you don't have resources, and I tap into our teen, remember our teenage years when we first got our car, and it's like, oh, I only got $5. I only got $2. Guess how much gas I'm
Hmm.
getting?
Yep. Yep.
However,
That $2.
I know people laughing $2. I'm like, yeah, $2 gave you a lot of gas back in the day. But that's
Yeah,
another
because
conversation.
gas is only 99 cents a gallon. Yeah, 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 yeah. We're showing our age, man.
I know. But these analogies help people put in perspective that human beings, we have energy and it's finite, and you got to replenish it, and you got to be realistic about you cannot work optimally, you can't work like your old self if you don't have the cognitive or physical energy to do it. So you have to be realistic about what are you saying yes to, what are you expending your energy on. And sometimes, look, if taking a 15-minute nap will give you 2 hours worth of energy, then take a 15-minute nap if that's all you can afford, right? What
Mhm.
can you do to put that $5 in your tank? And again, it may not take you as far as you want to go, but it'll get you through the day. So again, I work on perspective.
And people have to realize that a goal is something that you set for yourself. People, there's a lot of overachievers out there.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I was on a call the other day, and this guy was talking about work-life balance, and he was like, "Yeah, I feel like if I don't work," he said, "the average week for me is 60 hours a week." And I'm like,
Wow. That's a lot.
said the average. I was sitting on the call, and I was just like, "Wow, the average." Like he's like, "Yeah, some weeks I work more than 60 hours a week." Oh, granted, I haven't worked 60 hours, but I've worked some hours. But I realized I set certain goals for myself. Like I want to accomplish X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And if I hit those goals, I am happy. Now, if I go beyond those, I'm
Even
ecstatic.
better.
But
Mm-hmm.
if I hit those particular goals, I am good with where I'm at right now. Because those most of them are personal goals for work. They're work and personal goals.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing I will say to your thing, I have used ChatGPT for certain things, but I have not used it for it probably its full potential. Some
Hmm.
of the things you just mentioned, I never thought about using it. And it can help, but I think as Gen Xers, as I have in my line of business, I run the gamut. I've heard boomers
Mm.
and Gen Xers and millennials and Gen Zers, and so I know like where a lot of them they don't want to speak to AI. They don't want to speak to they want to speak to a person. They want a person to solve their issues. So it's a growing thing.
It is.
It's something to grow with, something to learn. You know,
I agree with you. And those and it is and you're right, that is a growth thing. And I've seen a lot of people who don't want to use AI, but it does help you through these transitions. And so for those clients who are adamant against it, then I'm like, okay, so what other resources you got? Because at the end of the day, you got to make a decision. You're either going to stay in this flux of overwhelm and cognitive overload, or you're not. And you have to be willing to make, look, I'm gonna say it like this. You gotta be willing to crap or get off the pot. You do.
hmm
You
hmm
do.
hmm
And you have to also be willing to adjust your goals, adjust what you want to do, because who you were at 20, you're going to be a different person at 30. You're going to be a different person at 50, 60, 70, 75, 80. Children will change your perspective, male or female, right? Going to school changes your perspective. All of these life events will change how you navigate things. What you want, like today, what I want. I think I did a video, I think on TikTok, and I said, I think it was TikTok. I said, um, I am in a place in my life more or less where I want low key. Now, ask me in my 20s. Oh, I wanted to be somebody's executive VP, CEO of something. Now, I did make it to CEO because I got my own company. So I'm the CEO and founder of my own company. I
No,
did do that.
say the plug. Oh,
I know, right? However, it's still different because it's mine. And even
right.
though I'm the CEO and founder, at the end of the day, I want low key. I'm not trying to be all over and try. No, mm-mm. Out low key. I don't want a lot of stress, right? And
hmm
so,
hmm
but again, in my 20s and 30s, oh yeah, I want to bring me the smoke. I want the smoke, right? I'm gonna be politically savvy and work my way up and work 60-hour weeks and travel here, travel there. Man, as I got older, like, yeah, I don't want to do none of that.
Well, we still want to travel. We still want to
Well,
travel.
I do
Still
want to
want to
try. Well, that is something that's different. So actually, I'm glad you said that because when I had children, I didn't want to travel. Now that my
travel.
children are adults, oh, where you want me to go? I will go. Where we going? We going to your house? Where we going?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly, exactly.
But again, that speaks to life events will create different mindsets and different wants. And people struggle with letting go their original visions for themselves, their original ideas. And I always tell my clients, so mourn it. And people don't realize that that loss, you have the right to mourn the vision that you created in your 20s for who you wanted to be at the new stage in your life. So if you're now 40 and you're like, I'm not where I wanted to be. Okay, so you made that vision in your 20s. You
hmm
have
hmm
different priorities now. It's okay to
Right.
let that vision go or evolve it to fit who you are today. And I'm like, have a grieving party. I literally had a session, and I'll kind of close it off with this 'cause I think this is a great way to talk about life changes. When you have to let go of who you used to be, what you used to want, mourn it. Put your name or that vision on a piece of paper, put it in a box, put flowers on it, say a eulogy for it, cry over it, and go bury it. And then you get a new piece of paper and you create a new vision,
Mhm.
because you are not going to be the same person you were at 20 or 30 or 40. And you damn sure not going to be that person when you're 50. You have to change with your age and your priorities. And it's okay to grieve putting it to rest.
They said, there's a saying that allegedly Muhammad Ali said that the person who is 50 years old, paraphrasing it, the person who is at 50 years old, that is the same person they were at 20 years old, has wasted 30 years of their life.
What? What? Perfect quote to wrap this up. Don't even need to add nothing to it. Yes, yes, yes. In honor of Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, his government name. Yes,
Hmm.
yes. So y'all take that. Take that how you will. And life is going to happen. From the time you start
Hmm.
till the time you stop. Life going life. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for reaching out. Hey, you going through a life change? You can reach out and set some coaching time with me. I have some availability, not a lot at all, but I have some availability coming up. So make sure you get on my calendar. And if you're going through a life change, let's talk about how you can transition and still come out on the other side, your best self. So thank you all for joining me and Coach Will. We are excited. And stay tuned for more episodes in the future. And if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, feel free to leave it in the comments. Let us know. Tell us what you want us to talk about, what you want to hear, anything that we've talked about in the past that you want us to explore through a new lens, deeper, grander, bigger. You talk to us, let us know, and we're happy to fulfill your request. All right, you guys, go out there and create awesome sauce for yourself and others. And thank you so much for joining us.